I've spent the last 17 years of my life studying and protecting sloths in the wild. And during that time, I've learned a lot about what sloths need to survive and what's required to care for them properly. Drawing on all of that experience, I can say with complete confidence that what's happened here in the building right behind us goes far beyond anything that should be considered acceptable or humane. One of the things I think it's really important to say is that we often avoid using words like scared and frightened when we talk about animals, because we've got this idea, this perception that those kind of feelings are somehow uniquely human. But science has shown us again and again that that's not true. Animals, including sloths, are perfectly capable of experiencing these same feelings. They feel scared when they're violently ripped from the rainforest canopy. They feel frightened when they're put in a crate and put in the cargo hold of an aeroplane and transported across continents. And one of the most important things to know about sloths is that they don't have a strong fight or flight response. When a sloth is scared or frightened, it internalizes that stress and it will suffer in silence until it's too late. Sloths are incredibly specialized animals. They've evolved over the last 30 million years to live in warm, humid, tropical rainforests where they eat leaves and live quietly in solitude. Every part of their biology is built around that, from their inability to regulate their own body temperature to the specialized microbes that live in their stomach that help them digest the leaves that they eat. When you take a sloth out of that environment and when you replace it with things like brown rice or Pedialyte solutions, when you expose them to cold temperatures and constant human disturbance, they simply do not survive, and we know that. Anyone with even a basic understanding of sloth biology knows this because it's been well documented. We know what sloths need to we know what sloths need to survive. In almost every way imaginable, those needs were not met by Sloth World. From the way these animals were violently taken from the wild, which is reflected in the physical injuries that were seen on their bodies, to the conditions they were kept in here in Florida, they were never given a chance to survive, and the result was suffering and death. And this didn't just happen once, it happened again and again, and it was allowed to happen, and that is what we're here to understand and to get to the bottom of today. In 2024, 21 sloths were brought here from Guyana, and they were placed in an unprepared warehouse in a parking lot with no electricity, no climate control, and no running water. And within a matter of days, all 21 of those sloths were dead. Another 10 sloths were then imported from Peru. All 10 of those animals died as well. None of these deaths were reported at the time because under the current system, they do not have to be. The Florida Fish and Wildlife Commission became aware of the 31 sloth deaths in August 2025 during an inspection, and yet they allowed Sloth World to continue importing more sloths until as recently as March this year. During that time, we now know that another 21 sloths have lost their lives, bringing the total to 55 dead sloths right now. The Florida Fish and Wildlife Commission has stated that they found no evidence of violations, but under Florida law, it's a criminal offense to subject animals to unnecessary suffering. Placing highly sensitive animals into a warehouse with no electricity, no heat, and no running water resulted in suffering that was predictable, visible, and entirely preventable. I struggle to understand how that does not constitute a violation.
Absolutely.
And if this does not meet the threshold for suffering under the law, then we have to act whether the threshold is set far too low and whether the laws are sufficient. At the Sloth Conservation Foundation, alongside our partners at the Sloth Institute, we feel very strongly that there needs to be accountability for what has happened here. And just as importantly, we need to make sure that this never happens again. From a scientific standpoint, we already know that there is no ethical, safe, or justifiable reason to continue taking sloths from the wild, particularly when the only beneficiaries are those profiting from their exploitation. For that reason, we are calling for a ban on the import of wild-caught sloths into the United States for commercial purposes and private ownership.
That's right.
And we'll continue to push for that change for as long as it takes. We're also calling for stronger protections more broadly, including a review of how sloths are currently classified, and ends to hands-on encounter experiences, and full transparency when animals die in these facilities. Quite simply, sloths are not commodities for us to own or profit from. They're living sentient animals with highly specialized needs that have evolved to live in the rainforest. Many of the sloths that were brought here may have lived for decades, wild and free in the rainforest, only to be removed and confined to a warehouse where they've got jungle leaves painted on concrete walls, they'll never see the real rainforest again. So it leaves us with a very simple question. How is this considered acceptable under state and federal laws in the United States? And while we're here today to demand accountability and action, we're also here because there are 10 sloths who have survived this and who now depend entirely on the care they're going to receive moving forward. So on that note, I'd like to introduce Sam Trull from the Sloth Institute. She's a world expert in sloth rescue and rehabilitation, and she'll speak more about the challenges these animals now face and what it will take to support them moving forward. Thank you.